I think the key thing is, and probably growing up in a broken sort of family that had a lot of movement, that saw a lot of fighting and a lot of arguing and all those sorts of things, like in a way it's actually been a massive positive, because I thought, well, at the end of the day, I don't want to go through that, and nor do you want to be in an unhappy relationship, whether that be with friends, with family, with your spouse and stuff. So it's just realising that as you evolve as a human, and I learned some of these things particularly on some of the retreats that I've done, but every 7 years you evolve as a human, which means that you do change. And it's like when people go, "Oh, Marty, you've changed." Yeah, as I should, because I'm learning and I'm growing and I'm hopefully getting better. So every 7 years when you evolve as a human, you can Google this, your subconscious changes. You go from 0 to 7, it's all about like being safe, and 7 to 14, it's like, growing and exploring, and 14 to 21, finding purpose, and then 21 to 28, it evolves and it just keeps evolving. It's quite amazing if you look at this thing, and I can't recite it perfectly, but it's quite fascinating. So when you're going through those moments in life, and if you've been with someone for as long as I have, 18 years with Charlotte, you have to fall in love with that person as they've grown, because they do change.
That would be hard.
Okay, so the values of the person and the morals of the person stay the same, but the actual person does change. Like, think about it. If we were to sit here in 20 years' time, do you think that I'm the Marty that I am now? Absolutely not. He's got another 2 evolutions. The Marty that you could have been sitting with here, like if you look at the interview with Tom Panos when I'm 23 in Sydney, that's had, heaps of views, and heaps of young agents get inspiration from that. Am I talking like that same agent? I'm the same person, like in terms of my morals and my values and all those sorts of bits and bobs, but you can categorically see the massive difference in who I am. Like if Charlotte met that guy right now, would they click and fall in love? No chance. They just wouldn't. They're not aligned. So you've got to continually keep finding alignment with your team, with your spouse, with your folks, because everyone's on that same journey of evolution. Everyone's changing constantly.
How do you keep finding the alignment when it doesn't feel like it no longer is there?
Talking. Because it ends up like becoming a point where you just, okay, it's like when you say to people, "Oh, I haven't spoken to that person in so long." Well, you probably have a pretty big disconnect now.
Yeah.
So it's like, things get in the way, like kids or building businesses and so forth, and that's just unfortunate. It's not deliberate that you lose contact and that you lose that bromance that you once had, but it's just natural that other things take over, and that is due to lack of time.
So how do you keep a strong relationship when you're having less and less time for the relationship as more kids come and work gets busier?
By realising that if you put too much focus on one thing, let's just say this is the situation. I've got all this focus on being successful because I never grew up with anything, right? I never had the things that, I saw other kids have. And I chase that success too much in WHITEFOX and try and get so wealthy that all of a sudden I'm not giving Charlotte any time, and there is no date night and there are no holidays, and all of a sudden we break up. Well, who's the fuckwit then? Me. Because I've tried for so long to bring my kids and myself the things that we didn't have growing up, which for some reason I think is important, when it may or may not be important, at the expense of possibly losing someone that's helped me get there. What a waste.
So what's the cost of success?
Well, the cost of success, if you go down that path, is everything that you actually really value.
So where do you draw the line?
Well, trying to understand and be present and figuring it out now in my 30s and not having regrets in my 50s. So preempt and look at what your life looks like if you were to lose everything and ask yourself, is that where I want to be? Because ultimately that's where it will go. If you're valuing, like I'm proof that you can build a strong business, you can fucking make good money, you can try and get as healthy as possible and not lose the other side, because I value them just, as high as each other. at this point in time, because that's the thing, it has to be balanced. As I get older, my time with my family will increase. If I look at my early years when Freddie was first born, I was like running a million miles an hour. And, you know, Lana will tell you, and she probably didn't talk about this, but there was times when we'd be doing deals and I had to get back for bath time. And I'd run back and Lana would be out the front sitting in the car. I'd go in, I'd have my 15, 20 minutes with Charlotte and Freddie, and I'd do bath time. And I'd kiss him on the cheek and Charlotte would put him to bed. And I had the buy-in from Charlotte because I said, bub, this won't be forever. And then I'd get back into that car with Lana and bang, we'd go off and close the deal and I'd be home at 10 o'clock. So it was, again, communication. You know, Charlotte, I'm not going to be here for the cuddles on the couch watching fucking maths, but I'm out there building a future where one day you will get me back. And, you know, I'm very rarely home after 5 o'clock. And I'm here as much as I can be with the kids. You've really got to crack the code and talk about it, because
sounds like it. Talking's
you have to talk about it, because there's also moments of jealousy and there's moments of, you know, why can't I spend the time with you? But it's like, well, what is the goal as a family? Where do we want to be at 50? You got to ask those questions in your 20s and 30s. If you've found that life partner, where do we want to be and how do we want to be? Do we still want to be connected? Do we still want to be, you know, hanging out and talking about things and laughing about the same shit? Or do you call it quits now and fucking bounce? You got to have these hard conversations.
Ladies, gentlemen, thank you for joining us again. We've got Marty Fox.
Round two.
Round two in 2 times in 24 hours.
Well, you've been to the office. Why not come to my house? Meet Charlotte, meet Mum. We walked in and they're getting their hair done.
Yeah.
Like, what's the chances? But yesterday went very, very quick. And then a few things happened today with your scheduling. And we thought, well, you know what? I had a cheeky little hour within my day. I was coming home to check up, and why not pop in? Have a coffee.
Have a coffee.
Have a coffee, have a chat. Let's do it. Mate, there's from yesterday, there's a couple of things that I actually forgot to ask you about on camera.
Well, yesterday was a lot of info, first meeting. It was pretty quick.
It was.
So I was just quite lucky that today's calendar lined up.
Yeah.
Dom behind us on the phone, moving with the scissors. Hasn't cut my hair today though, has he?
No, not at all.
But you're keeping me fresh for the block, aren't you?
Absolutely.
Unbelievable.
Do you have to get your like hair and makeup done to go on the block every episode?
Dom, just shut that door, brother.
Yes.
So I normally see Dom on a sort of Thursday, Friday, quick little trim. You get to set. I leave here at 7 a.m. It's a 2-hour drive, unfortunately, this year.
2 hours?
Yeah, it's a 2-hour drive, and then there's about a half an hour break in filming. How I've explained it to agents, the workload would be like filming 10 property videos back to back. That's probably the exertion that I'd go through. But like I've spoken about on, you know, other podcasts or even just privately, in that environment, I'm sort of in flow because I can't be called. Nobody's, you know, coming at me from a business perspective. It's a chance for me to be creative in an environment that I love, which is property. So yeah, 2-hour journey there. Then you get there at about 9:30. Normally it's hair and makeup, but my hair's already fixed. They put a little bit of makeup on and then bang, out I go.
Gotcha. Now, how did that all come about? Did they approach you?
It's pretty cool. I was at Gwingana. I was actually in a health retreat, and I'd also switched off my social media to have a bit of a break after sort of 12 years of really heavy social. I was at that transitioning point of going from agency into CEO, being overweight, getting over pericarditis. All those things had sort of compounded. And Shura Taft, who you guys met yesterday, he spoke to Charlotte. I then had that break. The day that I checked in and switched my phone off, turned my socials all off, I actually had the founder and executive producer send me a message saying, we need to catch up ASAP. So I actually ghosted him for a whole week, checked out at Gwingana, got to the airport. I'll never forget, I saw 430 odd emails in my inbox, and there was one from Julian Kress, who was just recently on with the Fox podcast.
Really?
And I freaked out and I thought, oh my God, I've ghosted Jules for a week. This is so funny. And I ended up sending him a text message saying, "Hey mate, so sorry I've been off grid. What did you want to discuss?" And he just wrote back straight away and said, "Can I come over?" And he popped over literally that next day. Mum, Charlotte, kids were all here, and he brought over a bottle of wine. We went out the back, sat under the tree, and he just said, told me the story of, how the block came up, and the first judge on the block was John McGrath, and the impacts that national presence gave to him, and that the block really needed that real estate sort of spin to come back into it. Mm. And he said, not speaking to anyone else, not asking anyone else, want it to be you. And I just shook his hand and said, let's rock and roll. And that's literally 6 weeks later, we started filming. So
6 weeks, that's how fast it was.
Yeah, and that was sort of a bit of a fill-in. Neil Whitaker and I were sort of tag teaming a bit. So I did probably 8 or 9 episodes last year, and then this year I'm 8 weeks in now, and we're halfway through this season. So full-time judge on the block. It was pretty cool, very cool, and it's nice to be recognised in that aspect. That not only is it that I understand what buyers think and what a campaign needs and what a seller requires, but as a property flipper with Charlotte, we've done 14 flips. These guys on national television are essentially flipping a property. So my expertise comes from multiple angles, and that's what I think is quite unique.
How's it affected your business?
I think it's more given that credibility, which unfortunately there's certain times in life when you need that exterior establishment giving you that real life blue tick of approval. Yeah. There's so much that you can say about yourself, but when others start recognising that you are at the top of your game and that you can be trusted and that you understand things deeper than the average, that's what it's done for me, is it's brought that air of credibility that can't be taken away.
Love it.
There you go. So the block, because it's a big thing when you see people giving advice, like an interior designer may walk through and share her perspective on how a room should be graded based on an interior designer, but it's a lot different getting advice from a property flipper who actually makes money, and the intent is to do a flip and make money. So I find that would be an awesome perspective to add to a show like that.
Yeah, and the feedback was really good. So many people, commented on socials and wrote in and actually said that this has actually changed the direction of the show, particularly on that massive Sunday evening that's when the majority of the viewers tune in. They get the recap, they see the scoring, and ultimately it determines who has the best opportunity to build better rooms, because if they win that week, they get prizes, which goes towards being able to build and invest into those next rooms. So the Sunday night's amazing because it's also bringing an extra 1 to 1.5 million eyeballs.
Wow.
Do you get stopped often in the street?
Look, honestly,
yeah,
I see it as, the block is, bless you, the block is the number one reality show ever sort of created out of Australia. So it's 20th season this year. So it goes into the Hall of Fame. That's the type of credibility that the show has. And, you've got Scotty Cam, one of the most recognised hosts in Australian TV. He's, won a Gold Logie. They've won multiple awards. And the founders, Julian Kress and David Barber, are legends of the industry. And there's so many people that I've met on the block that have been there from the very beginning. I'm meeting people that have dedicated their lives to this show over the last 20 years, and that's their best 20 years in their professions, whether they're sound technicians, editors, producers, behind the scenes in social. Like it's amazing how many lives the block has affected.
Yeah.
And just to be part of it and to have such an important role on it is
pretty cool.
Is very cool.
Yeah. The PR that you're getting from this is obviously amazing. And I think something that from the outside looking in from when you've started WHITEFOX, you've nailed PR right from the beginning. How do you, you
By
don't
not
really
having
see
a
many-
PR agency help.
Yeah,
it's been organic. It's been raw. It's a really good question because people say how, and you don't understand behind the scenes how many people have said, oh, you shouldn't have done that, or you shouldn't have done this. I've connected with my audience so much through storytelling, literally through Insta stories, through posting highs and lows and challenges and explaining things and, being entertaining, giving value. And I've found that my sweet spot is being able to be a little bit in between both, which is valuetainment. I'm not trying to be funny. I'm trying to give value, but because my personality comes through and I'm being who I am, at times it is funny, whether it's the situation with trying to name our dog and the kids are having an argument or something else that's been quite funny. I've just been very quick to capture it. Yeah. I never second question whether or not I should film or not, because I can always hit delete.
It's true.
So build content and watch it back. And if you think that it's okay, if you're not offending anyone, just post away.
Just post it.
So that's how I've been able to build up my PR, is I've just been very active on putting it out there. And trust me, there's been backlash. There's been things that people say, oh, you shouldn't have done this, you shouldn't have done that. But guess what? Would I actually made it onto the block if I wasn't who I was?
Well said. Would you have made it on the block if you had a WHITEFOX real estate account, Marty Fox personal account?
Well, let's just say, like, if I was vanilla, would I be there? No.
Everyone just seems to try put everyone into a box. How do you escape the box? How do you disregard people's opinions and outside validation to do your own thing?
Yeah.
What was the line?
Yeah, well, the line is in making sure that you're not trying to be someone that you're not. So let's just say if you're a little bit more subdued and you're a little bit more analytical and you don't have this big personality, then obviously valuetainment is going to be very difficult because you're not that entertaining. But what you can do is be extremely valuable. So talk about things that resonate well with you. Be analytical. Talk about the market. Talk about hypermarkets, hyperlocal. What's happening? Like
Hypermarket?
Yeah, be very, very detailed and niche on what it is that you're talking about. So then you're perceived as the expert. Like become the expert in something. If you're not going to stand out, because you may lack that charismatic flair, well, there's other ways to stand out. You just have to play to your strengths. People always say, you got to improve your weaknesses. But I think sometimes if you spend too much time on your weaknesses, you're disregarding your natural born talents and your strengths. So just keep focusing and amplifying the strengths and outsource those weaknesses.
Yeah. And talk about focusing. You were this morning when we caught up for breakfast, you were talking about being in the zone. Can we delve a little bit deeper into the zone, what it means to be in the zone and what the end result can be from that?
Being in the zone or being in flow is what I think most people try and chase.
Yeah.
It's called having momentum.
Momentum.
And when you've got momentum, something catastrophic normally has to, I think, get in the way to change that. So when you've got momentum, the hardest thing is how do you keep it? And that's by not introducing anything that could derail that momentum. But to get into that state, you need so many little things to line up. So many little things. Like for me personally, it's got to be my health. It's got to be my mental state. It's got to be my clarity. It's got to be my relationship with my folks, Charlotte, the kids. For me to get into flow, I've got to do all the little 1%ers to a high standard, and then everything else comes together. So I find that, what I'm putting out there, so what's online and offline need to be inline. That for me is a massive, massive thing. That way you don't have to have a facade. You don't have to ever pretend. You can just be who you are.
Yeah.
So to find that space where you can just be yourself unapologetically and perfect your craft and be an expert and just go through the motions of your day, winning each moment. And when I say winning, it's not at the expense of someone losing. It's winning for you. It's making sure that you enjoyed that situation, you enjoyed that meeting, you enjoyed that coffee, that interaction, that lunch, that walk. All those things, you've got to try and get the best out of it. And this isn't me saying that when you're in momentum, you don't have a shitty day. Like I had a really shitty, flatty day last week. It was just shit. And Charlotte was like, "You're a bit flat." And I was like, "You know what? I fucking was." Now that could have been from a multitude of reasons. It could have been through something that someone said. It could have just been genuinely just a little bit tired. 3 little kids. It could have been anything. Subconscious, maybe. Something just wasn't lining up. But did I allow that to wreck my week? No, I'm very good at hitting reset and starting each day, pretending as if it could be my last.
How does that play out? Like, how would you get in yourself to reset?
To reset, talk. Talk. It would have only been 2 weeks ago. Charlotte was sitting there, I was sitting here, and we had a massive blue. Like we just had to get it out of the system, talk about a couple of things that had happened, and it was amazing. There was a sorry, there was a kiss, there was a hug, there was a shower, there was a cuddle. Next day, bang, we're back on. But without that talk, there's no way that would have happened. And that happens in business as well. Movement as staff, change in financial position, all those different things that an agent will go through, you have to talk it through. I saved one of our agents just this week because they've gone through a bit of a rut, but it wasn't entirely their fault. There were things that were occurring in and around them that weren't serving them, and it affected their mental state, and they got into a rut. So to change their situation, we've essentially moved them out of the office that they're in, and they've moved into a different WHITEFOX office. Again, there's nothing wrong with where they were working, but something was happening that just was not right. And because I identified that, and
how did you identify that?
Well, it does come down to looking at the numbers. And when you see somebody have such a severe drop-off, it's normally because of something. They're not changing their processes. It always is internal. And I just had to unlock what that was. And sometimes change is as good as a holiday. And now that person's energy and outlook in the next 6 months is focused, excited. They're still with WHITEFOX. And had I not had that conversation, that could have increased the probability of maybe them leaving. Because normally people need to find another avenue to unlock their happiness again.
Yeah, it's true, isn't it?
Yeah, and to save people is, I think, a really important thing to do as a leader. And because I'm now not on the tools, I've got the peripheral vision to be able to see when those opportunities arise. And sometimes people do leave the business, and I'm actually quite thankful because they were the wrong fit. But again, you've got to let those people arrive at their own decisions. So there's times when you really want to be in there and save, and then there's times when you sort of sit back and you go, that's meant to be.
So Marty, sorry to interrupt. When you identify somebody's numbers are coming down, they're in a bit of a rut, how do you re-engage them with a why and a sense of purpose as a leader? Because that's something that I'd really love to learn.
And we're not a business that's just based off numbers, but the numbers will be a reflection of how they are mentally.
Like a cause of the main effect.
Correct. The number will be the effect on their situation. So normally you recognise it pretty early as a business owner, and you can see, and you always just give benefit of the doubt, and you go, oh, bad quarter, this, that, and the other. But then if it's over a sort of 6 month window, then you need to do something about it. And that's why it's great to just connect and talk. And normally what I do is I go to the sales director of the office and I say, Mike, keep an eye on this person. This has sort of dropped off. Just see if they need any help with anything. And then if it continues, that's normally when I'd then sort of get involved and pull them aside, and they can be a little bit more honest probably with me because they know that, the walls are down and I'm getting straight to it.
Yep. So is it just allowing them space to be honest with you, that you can help them re-engage with their why and purpose to get them out of a rut? Or
yeah, but I mean, people's why and purpose, everyone is honestly totally different. I mean, people want money. That's the truth. But it's also how they get it, where they do it, where they work. It's not just like one thing. If I said, hey, I can put you in a suburb an hour that way and you're going to write $5 million, you may or may not do it because it may not inspire you. You may not be happy being there. So clearly that is just proof and evidence that it's not just the money. It's the environment. It's your lifestyle. It's your commitments, and now there's a lot of people in WHITEFOX that have families. So their work commitments are also being affected by what their out of work commitments are. Like it's that's why everything has to be just the one version. The one person. And real estate's 24/7. So you've just got to be very aware of who you're working with and what their life entails.
So how often do you do a retreat?
Mate, I only went on one that I didn't even organise, which was through Shura. And then I try to go again, like 6 months ago and I didn't enjoy it.
Really?
I'm one of those ones where it's like you can't recreate that moment. When I went, I really needed to go. And I got the tools that I needed from that and I've now stored them. So I'm a quick learner and I can implement things myself. So I went back to try and see if it was good and I absolutely hated it. I actually checked out early. Yeah, I went back and I checked out 3 days early.
Wow.
Yeah.
Marty, what do you do on the hard days? Like the days where, you've woken up and you've been ridiculed online, you've been smashed and you're having a hard day. Like
I don't read that.
You don't read it?
No,
Okay.
no. Like a hard day, okay, a hard day for me would be someone that I care about
Yeah.
saying, hey, why'd you do this? But
Yeah.
but that has started to diminish. As I've gotten older and as my circle's gotten smaller, my close circle's gotten smaller, I don't have those issues that I once had because my time goes to people that genuinely know who I am and that I'm never going to do something to deliberately hurt you, ever. So as I'm getting older, I'm getting better. I'm not having to fight as much. I'm not having to prove myself as much.
Can read the play a bit better.
Read the play a bit better.
Comes back to our convo this morning with the lion analogy you gave.
Absolutely. It's like you asked me, are you still on the tools? And it's like, well, this was yesterday's question. It's like, man, I'm on the tools more than ever. And then this morning you said, are you still chasing people? And the reality is I'm chasing harder than ever. That's the reality. And the analogy that I gave you was, the lion is the king of the jungle and he's sitting in the forest or in the, Sahara Desert. And if he's hungry, the prey doesn't just walk up and just sit there and get eaten. The lion still chases. So if the king of the jungle is still chasing and trying to survive, then why do I think that I don't have to keep chasing? It's just that on the odd occasion, the chase is a bit easier. And that's what happens in business. You have to constantly chase, but you're chasing different things. And at times the chase is more strategic and it lasts a lot shorter. But don't ever think that you don't have to chase. The moment you're not chasing something, you're really limiting your ability to grow.
When did you stop chasing?
I haven't stopped chasing.
Like in terms of
I've never stopped chasing.
sorry, that's a wrong that
Was there a time
yeah.
where the desire to chase
That's it.
was limited due to something externally?
No, when I was laying in bed with pericarditis for 3 months, I was chasing ways on how I can
Fix that, yeah.
adapt. It's the Darwin theory, and I've spoken about this heaps before. It's not the biggest and strongest that survives. It's the one that's the most adaptable to change. So being able to pivot, being able to be nimble, being able to be street smart, all those things put you in a position of power. And none of those things costs any money. You don't need money to be able to do that. You need heart, guts, and a bit of chutzpah.
You love that one, don't you?
That's my favourite. Well, I grew up working in balaclava, so I was always trained and mentored by my Jewish community. So
Yeah.
love.
When you were coming up, whether it be in business, life, personal, what do you think the biggest mistakes, or where do you think you went wrong, or you would have done?
I had to go wrong in those moments of going wrong to figure out what I need to do moving forward. So there's zero regrets on
Your
my
biggest
behalf.
mistake?
Biggest mistake, I couldn't even tell you because I know that they happen for a reason, and they're just gone. They're just gone out of my mind. And I
Do you think
suppose
that's bad to suppress stuff though?
it's definitely not suppress. It's just that I'm so focused on the good stuff. In the moment when it happens, I accept it, I learn from it, and I move on. I spoke to someone recently and they were like, depression is when you're so focused and worried on the past. And anxiety is when you're so worried and focused on the future.
That's so true.
And for me, I don't have any depression because the past for me is gone, and I look at it so fondly and I record it like you saw in my goals. I don't have pages and pages of mistakes written down, do I? I've got pages and pages of achievements so that if I do happen to feel a little bit anxious about the future, I just look at my past and realise everything's going to be okay.
Fuck yeah.
Besides your family And besides WHITEFOX itself, what's your biggest achievement?
My biggest achievement outside of family and WHITEFOX is my ability to create something out of nothing. Being a true born opportunist is something that I'm very proud of. I can be thrown a shit sandwich and somehow make it taste and feel like it's one of the best sandwiches you'll ever try.
Do you think that's natural talent, or do you think that's because you went through all those different primary schools and you had to become a chameleon and all that sort of stuff? Is that just natural?
Big combination of everything.
Okay.
Yeah. Because was I like this as a teenager? No, I wasn't, because I didn't have the tools to be able to implement. So as time goes on, you just got to understand, like, you know, what do you need to get better? And, you know, I've always said to Charlotte, you know, when I hit 40, I'm going to be quite excited, because I feel like at 40, I'm going to be in a real sort of like state of life flow, age, experience, how I am as a father, how I am as a husband, how I am as a leader, how I am as a TV personality.
We've got
all
a special guest.
Oh, jeez.
Are you jumping on?
Mum, come on in.
Are you jumping on?
Oh, she's having her hair done.
Yeah, that's okay.
Oh, I don't know. How far? Oh, you can sit down if you want.
Are you going to jump on?
Come meet Mama Fox.
All right, we're going to ask you...
Jeez, like literally getting your hair done.
Just watch it on get any
Welcome to the
dye
Both
on your
Sides
spoon.
podcast.
Hey, how are you?
We've got Mama Fox on.
This is the first time.
I think this is the first mum on the show.
Really?
But how's that getting her hair done? Far out.
Well, Charlotte had the hairdresser and she said, why don't you come over and get your greys done? Why not?
That's pretty funny.
Love getting the greys covered.
So we need to know... You've seen Marty grow from a little baby to what he is now. How much has he changed, and what do you think the biggest changes he's made over the past, let's say, 10 years, where the real growth has happened?
I think growth happens when you actually listen. And I think Marty has always been a great listener.
It's funny though you say that, because so many people think that from their perception of me, if they haven't met, I don't listen. I just do things my way. But it's actually the quite opposite. I listen a lot, ask a lot of questions, and then I make my decision. But when I make that decision, it is with 100% clarity.
So for me, from Marty's always been, he's always dreamt of great things. And not just for himself. I think for Marty, watching him throughout life, where he is today, it's not for him, it's for everyone else around him. He gets the greatest satisfaction in seeing other people achieve and be what they want to be in life. And it's him. He was born that way. You're born with it. And Marty's born with it. And that's what makes me the proudest mother, because when I look at him, he's also living part of my dream too, something that I couldn't do. You know, being a young mum, you know, having to work so hard just to give him and his brother everything I could in life, you know, with his father. And you kind of sit back and you think, well, what I see him do. I mean, I love a hustle. I love getting out there. I love it. I think it's great. So when I see him every day achieve, I feel, part of me is in there. I feel part of me in him. I feel the energy, and I'm all about energy, and he's always upbeat. And if he does have a moment, he always picks up the phone. Hey, Mum. That's the other great thing. He's never frightened to actually say to you, what do you think? He's great at asking. And that always goes back to that. He's a great listener.
Wow, what a testimonial.
Yeah.
What a testimonial.
Yeah.
Wow.
Oh, don't worry. He was a cheeky boy at times too. Don't you worry. He gave me sleepless nights too.
If you had to just front of mind give us one thing that you're most proud of with Marty, what would it be?
My proudest moments would be the way he's taken on fatherhood.
Taking on fatherhood.
Best dad in the world.
What makes you say that?
It's love. What do we all want in life?
Love.
We all want to feel that we're loved. We belong. We want to feel belong. You know, you want to belong to something. And if a child or whatever, if you show that you truly love this person, and that's all you've got to do is be there, be in the moment. Be in the moment when they come home for whatever it is. Just be in that moment, and Marty is always in the moment, especially with his children, especially with me, his wife. He's in the moment. So to me, that is the most important thing. Be in the moment. Show it.
Be in the moment.
Love it.
Yeah, got to.
Special guest, thank you.
And so what type
you.
of, sorry to interrupt, what type of an impact has that had then play out for Marty being the dad he is and you seeing that young man grow up into that dad?
Well, I think with Marty, he was raised that way. And I was raised that way. My mother and father have always been there for me. And so I've grown up with this very tight belief that, you know, your parents are your greatest mentors, aren't they? You know, we look up to our parents. And my parents...
Or parent figure.
Or parent figure, yeah. And so I've had great role models. And so when I was a young mum, when I had Marty...
How old were you?
I was...
21?
You were born 2 days after... I turned 22. You were born on the 30th and I 2nd of July. So when I was a young mum, my mum said to me, you know, you're a young mum and you're going to be a great mum. And I watched and learnt. She didn't have to tell me. I just knew. And so it's the greatest gift you can get in life. I mean, having, you know, so to me, I was always in the moment with him. I was always there. And I still am to this day.
Even at school though, like, you know, people are like, oh, your mum's young. Like, you know, there was things that we missed out on and I was teased for it. It was quite cruel. And you're like, fuck, this is bizarre. But then it evolved because I then had the ability to, you know, go to university with mum. Like we enrolled into uni together.
Really?
I was 18 and mum was like 37.
In the
same uni.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Over in New Zealand. So the things that we're able to do now, like, you know, we go out, we take the kids out for, you know, ice cream or whatnot or lunch, and people think that we're the couple. It's like, that's this guy with the cougar. That's my mum.
I'm his mum.
And they think that, like, you know, mum's the, you know, we have grandparents' day at school and mum's with a bunch of geriatrics. And they're like, oh, you're the mum. No, I'm the grandma. So it's the benefits later in life have really been prevalent, like really prevalent. And I actually would trade it for the world. I wouldn't trade it for the world. I think the way that it's all panned out has just panned out because that's the way that it's meant to be.
And what about you, Marty? What's the most proudest moments with mum that stick out to you?
The strength. It's far strong as an ox. Like, just knowing that someone can go in there and bat for you harder than anything is the key. I can go to mum with any issue and I know that it's getting resolved. Any issue. And I've had that since I was born. I could literally go to mum with anything. Let's just even say if I was in the wrong. In that moment, she'd make out like I was in the right. And then once I've been able to get over it, she'd pull me aside and say, now listen here, dickhead, you were fucking wrong. But emotionally, she's always protected me.
Yeah.
You know, and it's the strength to be able to do what she's done, go to uni, go to the outback, work in Aboriginal communities, you know, be ridiculed as that young mum and somehow keep it all together. You know, be fucked around by different men. She's been married 3 times, loves a wedding, loves love. But it goes back to her saying, loves love.
Yeah,
you know, and having that mindset of you can always rebound, you can always do better, you can always achieve anything that you want, but just don't forget the moment that you're in, because sometimes it's that moment that's actually the magic.
What's it like to hear those words from your son?
It's great because I know I've done a great job, and it's okay to know that you've done a great job, but my job's not finished.
I
You
love
know,
that. The hustle still goes on.
The job's not finished. You know, he's still a young boy.
Still a young buck.
Yeah, he's still young, and I've got my 4 beautiful grandchildren, and they're still going to have to go through me. You know, because you've got to. It's just install. It's just install belief. You know, instill. Sorry, I always say things backwards.
Always. Like Charlotte.
Always.
They get their words.
We get our
muddled up.
words, but you know, who cares? At the end of the day, what it comes down to is you've got to, you know, belief has been a big factor for me, and I think it's just it shows.
What about all those times I'd call you, and I'd finished university, I'd had a hard week in the office. You know, I was 2-3 years into real estate, and I'd be like, Mum, like, is this it? Is this me? Like, I'm struggling. I'm not getting listings. I've just had 2 deals fall over. Like, honestly, what the fuck am I doing? Like, I'm a real estate agent selling shitbox flats in St Kilda. Like, where is my life going? I'm having a shit one. Remember those phone calls I'd always make? And I was lost. I was pushing shit uphill. I was trying things. People weren't believing in me. People were laughing. Like,
but that was it. I was just about to say it, but you've just actually said what you already knew. That it was the fact that the people around you weren't bringing you up. They weren't telling you the things that you needed to hear. And this is just it. Sometimes when you're in an environment, and this is what I love about what you've done, and you've done this because it's in your core, it's in your belief, it's what you've been brought up to do. You know, it was that toxic environment where, you know, you're getting told you're not ready, you're not good enough, you can't. Well,
you're too young.
You're too young.
You haven't managed.
People won't respect you.
How are you going to build an agency if you've never looked after people?
Yeah.
You look too young. It's that constant negativity of, well, no, maybe you can't, but I can. That's what it is.
And that's where you'd pick up the phone and I'd say to him, well, hang on a sec. They can't do it. But what's stopping you? Don't listen to the noise. Block the noise out. Block the noise out and go
But I struggled.
for it. And you did struggle.
It was fucking hard. Like, just constantly, you know, when you're at work, you shouldn't have to try and defend yourself. It's hard enough out there in the marketplace. It's hard enough to actually get a listing. It's hard enough to actually convince a buyer that it's right. It's the pricing. It's what you should be buying. Your office should be your safety. It should be your second home where you can run ideas, try different things, and not be ridiculed, you know?
Yeah, but so many people are so frightened to actually be who they want to be. They've got to be a certain way to be accepted. And I think that's really sad too. I think that we all should be able to be who we want to be, show that different side of us, but be mindful and respectful of others around you because, you know, as much as Marty and I are extroverts, we're also very much introverted too. Yeah. Like we are both Cancerians. We both love to go into our crab shell. I forgot that. And but that's okay. So there's many sides to a person. And I think that's the beauty is getting to know your sides. And it's okay. It's okay to have those sides. It's okay to be that bubbly person at the party. It's okay to be the person that pulls back. It's okay to be the person that doesn't really want to go out to the certain concerts or clubs or whatever because you don't feel comfortable. And this is it. People are so frightened to say, well, I'm not really comfortable in this, or I don't really want to do this. I don't want to wear a suit and tie. I actually don't think I need to wear a suit and tie to look older, to look like I'm intelligent. I mean, you can wear what you want to wear. People are going to gravitate to you just by being true to yourself and being real. And, you know...
So I've been very lucky that I've got someone like Mum behind the scenes because when I had those thoughts and feelings, I mean, look at her now. She's got no makeup on. She's in her runners and she's talking on a business podcast.
You camera right
couldn't care less because Mum is comfortable in her skin, right? So then growing up looking up to someone, I really loved, and Dad has this too. They're very unique people where they're just comfortable in their skin. You know, my mum can talk to somebody in the gutter and somebody that's running a country. And for me, I have always admired that because she stays constant. Yeah. And if you can stay constant, then you don't have to really change for anyone.
Sure.
Now, we talked about yesterday, like in sales, being able to be a bit of a chameleon and being able to adapt. That's a different thing. That's about marketability and salability. That's work. This is more like as a person. As a person, you should be able to stay exactly who you are.
Yeah, well, you've just sat down and had, 15-minute conversation. Yeah. We should have you on as a single guest, to be honest with you. Like, you've actually had some really, really good nuggets in there. You're probably going to get clipped up, by the way.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah.
Well,
Clickbait. Marty's mum. Jesus.
Look, guys, I love your work.
Thank you.
I do follow you both.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, thank you so much for letting me gate crash.
You probably need to rinse your colour.
I think I can hear Dom. I can actually hear Dom out there saying, "Where is she? I'm coming if my hair falls out. Watch out."
But Mum, before you jump off, what's your best piece of advice for people like Kevin and I, or for people that don't have you as a mum in their corner, like what Marty does?
Call me.
Oh,
hey.
No,
There you go.
Actually, I need you for me.
Best advice, I think we've all got a person in our life, and it could be a friend, it could be a family member. There's always someone, I think, within a circle that knows somebody. But I think you two have got each other, and I think you both really bounce well off each other. And I really do believe if you don't have that person, reach out. Just look for it, because I've got my mum. I ring my mum every single day. She's my rock. I talk to her. And hey, we have our moments, don't get me wrong, but there is always something. There's always somebody out there for someone, and you just got to reach out to them. And I think that's the key. Don't ever feel ashamed about ever talking your truth.
Ooh,
talk your truth.
Talk your truth.
Talk your truth.
Love it.
And I'm going to love you and leave you because my hair's going to fall out.
Well done.
Thank you so
Thanks.
much. Thank you.
Mate, that was phenomenal.
That's different.
That is different.
That's real.
That is, wow.
Anyway, boys.
All right.
That's a nice way to end.
That was
It was a nice way to end. Look, we're going to have to wrap this up. But Marty, I just wanted to say we really appreciate you. Thank you so much for giving us your time.
Inviting us to your space.
Inviting us into your home. And thank you for giving back to the real estate community. We all appreciate
Anytime.
you. Thank you.
Thanks, brother.